Hi, I'm Anne Gaviola. Welcome to the Peak on Global, where we break down what is trending in the business world and what you need to know to stay ahead of the curve. Joining me now is Brett Chang from the Peak podcast. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, Anne, great to be with you as always.
Let's start with news this week about reality TV star and business mogul Kim Kardashian. She's agreed to pay more than $1 million to settle SEC charges for shilling a cryptocurrency called Ethereum Max without disclosing that she was getting paid. What are your thoughts on this, Brett?
So cryptocurrencies are new to everyone. They're new to you, they're new to me, and they're definitely new to regulators. And so the Securities and Exchanges Commission, the SEC in the US, they've been trying to navigate how best to regulate this. And Kim Kardashian was a pretty easy target for them. She was promoting this cryptocurrency called Ethereum Max. She owned a couple $100,000 worth of it, did not disclose that to the public. And much of the public, despite what you should not do, by the way, you should not take investment advice from celebrities, but they do take that investment advice. And so this ultimately did hurt Main Street. There are people who bought this cryptocurrency despite not knowing what Kim Kardashian knew about it, and the security regulators intervened, and they have fined and settled with Kim Kardashian for that $1 million fine.
Yeah, I would say that cryptocurrency is new to most people. I mean, it's new-ish to me in that I used to work in fintech. But let's talk about that fine. It is a lot of money to just about everyone, but for Kim Kardashian, that's a drop in the bucket. The point here is that the SEC wanted to send a message. My question is, are the Logan Pauls, boxer Floyd Mayweather Jr., even Elon Musk, are they going to be next? Or is this something I would call a Martha Stewart moment, I made that up, where a high-profile woman gets taken down a peg, but others who are doing similar things are getting off scot-free?
Yeah, it's a great question, Anne, and I'm no securities law expert, but I will say, and you've probably seen this as well, that there, as you mentioned, are a number of different celebrities that we're promoting and advocating for different cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, there's a varying degree of them. I'm sure some of them had their lawyers review their agreements and they were above board and they respected securities laws as they're currently written. But some of them were doing very shady things, not dissimilar from what Kim Kardashian was doing. And it remains to be seen how hard the SEC is going to crack down on them. The one thing that I think the one example that this sets is that no one is free from these types of regulations. That the SEC is now going to start pursuing action against anybody who was participating in this type of behavior. And so I think that many celebrities who were also engaging in similar activities should be on alert.
Absolutely. And Kim Kardashian, obviously some low-hanging fruit. What she got is the equivalent of a slap on the wrist for someone with her wealth. Now, let's switch gears. This next story is about tech billionaire Melanie Perkins. She's the founder of Canva, which is a digital graphics platform. I used it a fair bit when I worked at a youth media company. This is many moons ago, back when I believe you might have been at Uber. I think this is particularly interesting because recently you and I chatted about the Patagonia founder giving up his company to combat climate change. Perkins says she's going to use her money to try to eliminate extreme poverty. Now, that's a pretty lofty but pretty noble goal, if I do say so myself.
It's an interesting dynamic. We've seen this before. And so there's something called the Giving Pledge, which is what Warren Buffett and Bill Gates have committed to, which is that they're going to give away 99% of their wealth. But much of that is going to happen after they're gone. I think what we're seeing now with both the Patagonia chief and now with the Canva chief is that there are a lot of very wealthy people who want to give away their money while they're still alive. And so Melanie Perkins, she's going to start by giving direct cash payments. I think it's about $10 million to people in extreme poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. And I have to say, and it's really neat to see that type of activity. I think the Giving Pledge is great, but we've got a lot of problems we have to deal with now. And the more people that we can have focused on that and investing and finding solutions to these big problems, whether it's extreme poverty or climate change, the better we all are.
Now, I think I know your answer to this one, but do you think that this is a trend or sort of another one-off?
I think it has to be a trend. These two very prominent, wealthy people have all come out in the past few weeks. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. It's not just us who feel a responsibility to make our world better. It's very wealthy people as well. And I think that's a great thing to see. Now, how many of them actually choose to do it, that all remains to be seen. There is a great number of people who are participating in this Giving Pledge that I talked about before, but how many people are going to go above and beyond that? Well, that remains to be seen. But I really do hope it's a trend, Anne.
Yeah, and these are not just, multimillionaires, these are billionaires. This third story is an important one, but it's a complicated one. So just when I think everything's fine and I can stop worrying about Credit Suisse, the Swiss bank, I see rumors it may be on a path to having kind of a Lehman moment, even though a lot of analysts say that is unlikely. Brett, can you bring us up to speed on what's happening there and why everyone should care?
So this is a hotly contentious and then very complicated issue. But really what you need to know is a couple things. So one, Moody's, the credit rating agency, they believe that Credit Suisse is going to lose about $3 billion in 2022. That's a lot of money for anyone. Usually it's not that much for a bank, but in Credit Suisse's case, there are a lot of questions about their credit worthiness. Do they have enough liquid assets on hand? And that is then causing a number of investors to buy what's called a CDS, a credit default swap. And you might have heard of this before. It was big during the housing crisis, and essentially an insurance on banks. Now, the price of Credit Suisse's CDS, that insurance on the bank, so that if they do default, that investors will be able to get paid out, that has skyrocketed. But many analysts they say that there's no comparison to be drawn to what happened with Lehman in 2008. But there are others who say otherwise. And so it really is contentious and hotly debated. Really what matters, though, is it's a huge bank, one of the biggest banks in Europe. And if this was to be a Lehman Brothers type situation, it would just be bad for the global economy.
Yeah, because of that contagion, and they're all kind of intertwined in each other's business. This is a bank that's been around for 166 years, but it has been embroiled in scandal after scandal. And the memo that the CEO sent out to calm people actually had the opposite effect. It spooked investors. Bottom line, though, you did mention a lot has changed since those scary days in 2007, 2008. Word on the street is these big banks are better capitalized than back then and more tightly regulated. But banks are funny things, Brett, in that a crisis of confidence can actually become this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point there. Credit Suisse hasn't had the best reputation over the past decade. They've been participating in some very problematic deals with Russian oligarchs and doing energy deals that they probably shouldn't have done. They've even done hedge fund deals. There was Archegos Capital, in which lost billions of dollars and was taking money out from Credit Suisse. And so they haven't had the best reputation in the last while. And I think that is all kind of feeding into what we're seeing in terms of that price increase in those credit default swaps, where investors, they are losing confidence in the bank. But is it enough confidence to actually see them go under and create contagion, which is very problematic for the world economy? Look, I'm not an expert in this. I can't say, and the analysts are split on it. But I think at least right now, it's not something that we have to be worried about in the immediate term.
Okay, and I think that really is the key takeaway. Thank you so much for that, Brett. Always great insight from you.
Thanks, Anne. Great to be with you as always.
Have a great long weekend. And you can get all your daily business news with the Peak Daily podcast. It is available for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.